Okay, we are back with more In a Maze of Dreams. We have an important decision to make, which is whose dream are we going to enter with the goal of... So I'll just read the little text here around what our mission looks like. So, the thing that we are about to do is explore a suspect's dream. We enter the dream of a suspect in the conspiracy, seeking the truth of their involvement or to confront known conspirators. And so right now we have kind of a smattering of people who are known conspirators or who we suspect of being involved. We all as players know that pretty much every secondary character we've established is going to have to be involved in some way. So we'll get to kind of find that out as we go. If the suspect's involvement is unknown, the mission tier is equal to that of the lowest unfilled role in the conspiracy map, which would be 1, so y'all are very well investigated at this point. If the crew's investigations have revealed a suspect's involvement, the mission tier is equal to the suspect's role tier, which I'll bump to the thing where we can see how that all plays out. And when a suspect's complicity becomes clear, add them to the conspiracy map in the appropriate position. So I'm going to drag us over to the conspiracy, and I think based on the stuff that we've established so far, I think it's fair to say that Rip is involved in indoctrination. So we got to see some good details about it there. Beyond that, I don't think we have anyone like pinned down in terms of what they're doing. But I think there's enough to make it clear that Rip is involved in bringing people in through their propagandic, leaflets and all this kind of stuff. And so y'all can pick any of these suspects, even ones that we haven't met yet. If you want, we'll somehow make it work. But people that we have seen so far, right, are Plana Luce, Fran, June, a little bit. We've seen Rip kind of indirectly, and we've seen Faye quite a lot. So any of those characters are prime candidates. If you go after Rip, because y'all have investigated so much, there is actually you'll have like a decent engagement roll for that, but for any of the other characters, it will be very advantageous for y'all right now, so you'll have a very strong engagement roll going after anyone else, for what that is worth. And then once we have gone in there and figured things out, confronted them, whatever the case may be, we'll then record them in the conspiracy map, and then we will check them off as being confronted. And if we confront the right people, we can kind of start dismantling the conspiracy.
Sorry, you said that if we pick anyone besides Rip, we'd have a stronger engagement roll?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because essentially with everyone else, they're unknown, so they're just going to be at the lowest open tier in the conspiracy, which is 1. Because there are lots of spots there, so.
I'm seeing how this. Okay, now
there is a logic to it. It's just a little bit roundabout,
okay.
But yeah.
I see. Interesting. What are we thinking?
Well, I feel like I'm kind of naturally inclined to go with someone that we've seen before, but I think that we could easily explore somebody else. It feels like Plana is very deeply involved, but also maybe doesn't want to be anymore, which is interesting. And Rip also seems to be involved to a certain degree, but isn't sold on the transitioning. Well, he's not sold on the transitioning people to Dreamworld because he wants to potentially dissolve the boundary between worlds. So I'm also very curious about the role that Faye plays, that Nan plays, because
does Nan play a role though?
Oh, I'm hella nosy. Like, I just want to jump into Nan's dreams.
I think you're deciding this, and Laurel's in the background, like, but do we have to?
Like, what if we just never found out and they exist in a state of potential forever?
Yeah, like, Nan's great and I love her, but I just it's her dreams, y'all. I don't feel comfortable with this.
That's fair. I think I've already externally deep dived more than I'm beyond my comfort with Nan, so I'm like, at some point I'm gonna need that internal confirmation on what's going on. But
And the ice is
doesn't
kind of
have to
already
be right
broken
away.
too, right?
Yeah,
You're like, oh yeah, it's
right?
fine. I've
I'm
already
like,
seen Nan's secrets, so
yeah.
it's fine.
But like,
And I
it's
think
Nan.
perhaps like I overhear the two of you talking about it. I'm like, we clearly just need to go see what's going on with her.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Nan doesn't have anything to hide. Nan's fine, right?
I mean, I've read her dream journals.
She's-
Okay.
You talked to Nan about her dream journals?
I did. By the way, we might have you over for dinner one night, so we can set up better security if you would like to help out.
You might want to set up a back door in that security.
Nothing could go wrong. It's
No,
fine.
nothing. Why would you say that?
Well, if we're gonna try to, set up security for Nan, I think we should know what we're securing.
Okay.
I'll put a little mouse hole in. It'll be fine.
Oh, jeez. All right. Fine. Let's go.
So we're gonna go into
Are we terrible people?
phase dream.
Are we the bad guys? Are we the baddies?
Y'all have the best of intentions, I'm sure, for what that's worth.
I'm gonna get to the bottom of all this, and also get my unicorn back.
Impact over intention, Andrew.
It's a very important distinction. Actually, I really like that way of phrasing that. It's nice. Impact over intention.
All right.
So,
Morgan, you're okay with this?
Morgan is okay with
Okay.
it. Laurel's like,
I just want to double check.
yeah, no, I ain't okay. Thank you.
yeah, by us putting the characters in this list, we are declaring that
they're up for
they are
grabs.
part of the conspiracy. We want to see what their involvement, right? Like, that's an important statement that we are making.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because with only 4 of us playing rather than 5, there are only enough spots for all of these characters.
That's true.
Like they will have to end up in the map to fill it.
Mm-hmm.
Is Nan an overseer? Oh, no, I'm sorry.
It's just like she
Okay,
is the host of the
maybe.
conspiracy.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, I was reading the map and I was like, what if she was here? Nan.
She pulls off her mask to reveal her same face, but with an evil mustache and goatee.
No, Nan.
Nan.
So we are going to go into phase dream, which means I need to ask y'all some questions. Let me just grab the engagement role procedure here. Here we go. So, if y'all are familiar with Blades, you'll already know this, but I'll just run through it real quick. So the engagement role lets us cut straight to the action, the heart of whatever is interesting about a given mission. This one role will let us know how things are going and elides all the tedious setup, planning, lead-in, etc. When we are setting up an engagement role, there are a number of factors to consider. So we start with 1 die, and we modify this dice pool based on the following factors. So, is the mission particularly heroic or noble?
No.
Doesn't seem like it is.
Can you lose a die?
Does the mission's goal or methods reflect the darkness inside our characters?
Yes.
Okay, so we lose a die.
Fuck.
So we're at 0 dice.
Cool.
Is the mission following through on details from the crew's investigation? Yes, absolutely. Does this mission determine the fate of a friend? Also, yes.
Yeah.
And then we are good on investigation. So we actually get 3 dice. And then are there any other elements that we want to consider due to circumstances, events in the world, etc.? So the only other factor I can see is that because the conspiracy is still running at full force here, as a result of, which one is it? Indoctrination still being online, we're at -1 die to engagement until all of them are identified and the overseer is confronted. So we're at 2 dice for the engagement roll here. So if one of
Makes
y'all
sense.
wants to make a fortune roll, which there should be a button for on your sheet, or just roll whatever, we just need to roll 2 dice.
I can do one. Fortune. Boom. It says, what's this? Engagement?
Yep.
Yeah. Position control.
Just, yeah, the position doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't
It's
matter.
just the dice macro doesn't distinguish at this point because it's very basic.
2 dice.
2 dice, yeah.
Extra, none. Submit.
Okay.
Hey.
So we get a 5 because the result was
Hey.
a 3 and a 5.
Hey.
So things aren't going perfectly at the outset. And the idea here is that we kind of cut through a lot of the early stuff and get right to the kind of core of things. So I think we enter on... Gosh.
What are the meat and potatoes?
So we get like a montage of y'all meeting up in the dream, traveling to Fran's dream, which is it's like a very idyllic small town. It's like clearly from Faye's childhood, so it's like a little bit anachronistic. It's like one generation old. There are, fields outside of the town. It's in a very kind of like rural American space. It's back before the air was all fucked up. Joy, do you have your hand up?
I do.
Oh,
I was just
hi.
about to ask.
Because I am the Enigma.
Mm-hmm.
Am I traveling with them as Spec, who they know? Or am I traveling with them as Rasa Slate, the mysterious figure who appears when they go and investigate dreams?
So it's totally up to you which version of this you want to do, where it's the like, oh yeah, they travel there with Spec, and then at the convenient moment, I disappear and reappear as this thing, and no one ever figures it out. And that can just be the conceit, and that's fine. Like, that's how it works. Or it can be that when they do dream stuff, you show up in this other persona. Just like from the
Do you
get-go.
have any feelings about that?
I am up for whatever you're comfortable with. Narratively, I'd like it. It's amusing to me to think that Spec disappears and new person shows up. We never connect the dot.
Like
Right.
Sailor Moon, like Clark Kent putting on the glasses. You're like, where's Clark?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Superman. Like,
Who is
Yeah.
this dashing person in front of me?
That works for me. Let's do that.
And also there's totally a split. There's like a 3-level split of like your mundane identity, you with the mask on, and then you transcended with your avatar, like taking over. Those
Right.
are potentially 3 different states. So you can be in disguise, but not be transcended if you want as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
So which one did you end up picking? Sorry, I was thinking about Superman.
Yeah, exactly that one. When shit starts to go down, Spec is gonna peace out, and Rasa Slate is going to appear.
Great. Okay. So yeah, the 3 of you meet up as we have seen you as Laurel, Soul, and Spec. And yeah, we get this montage of you all traveling through, I think just like a mirror that you step through and you end up in this town. We see y'all like walking along this very lonesome, like empty little 2-lane highway into the town with like the, telephone pole or electrical pole or whatever. They're made of wood, which is a little novel and anachronistic. There are fields, which at least initially are wheat fields and cornfields, but I'm sure later will be full of sunflowers. The town, like I said, is kind of like one generation back, very pastoral, kind of Americana stuff. And where things get interesting is I think like a young girl is like the only person you see in all of this because it's all empty. But there's like a town hall in the middle of town, and there's a young girl like kicking rocks in the like standing in the grass out front of it. And Laurel, you recognize this as Faye when she was a kid. There's like some old photo of her in this exact place that you have seen. And so, yeah, your grandma, but as a like 9-year-old, is here like kicking rocks in front of the town hall. And it's like dusk. So it's very windy, I think, and she's standing on grass in bare feet and like a sundress. It's warm, but the lights, the street lights have turned on, and in the town hall behind her, the lights are on, and you can hear kind of like a susurrus, a hubbub. There are people in there talking. Things are happening, and she's looking a little bit glum, kicking rocks out front of it. And then she notices you, and like perks up and waves. And says, "Oh, hi there. Are you late?"
Before we get to talking to her too much, I'm going to be like, I'm going to go around back and check out this town hall situation and see if there's another way in.
Right, so you like exit stage left.
To disappear. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this kid, young Faye, sees you, Saul and Laurel, and like waves and asks if you're late for the meeting.
Late for what?
Well, everyone's inside, all the grown-ups anyways, and she like rolls her eyes. I'm supposed to wait out here and let anyone know who shows up where they're supposed to go, but no one's showed up, except you, I guess. I'm bored.
Do you know what's going on?
Oh, it's just the meeting. Once a week, everyone meets. I don't get to be in it. She like kicks another rock and it like skips along the pavement a little ways.
Sounds a little boring.
Well, yeah, they come to my town. Don't even let me go to the meeting. She like crosses her arms.
You mean these aren't town folks that are having a meeting? It's someone from out of town?
Well, some of them are from around here, I guess. Like my mom. But then other people come from elsewhere, and she like indicates a parking lot with a bunch of like cars in it, and it's clear that like a bunch of people have driven here.
Are the cars also in old?
Yes.
Yeah, they like
I was gonna say the A word, and I was like, wait, no, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Actually, maybe, yeah, I think some of them like don't suit the dream. Like some of them are modern models, and some of them are older, and some of them are like a little bit uncanny or strange looking.
It's like seeing a Tesla in a 1950s movie, like.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little jarring in that way. So yeah, there's like a weird variety of cars parked there.
Staring right at Laurel. You know we gotta go in there.
Okay. All right. Well,
the question
you don't want
is,
to come in too?
do we sneak her in?
Yeah. That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, and I think she's like, well, if you two are the last ones, then I get to go inside and have a cookie. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's have that cookie. I want a cookie. So you didn't tell me there's cookies. Let's go get cookies.
And so, yeah, she like walks up to the door and pulls it open. It's like a, sorry, there's a loud motorcycle outside. I don't know if y'all can hear that.
No worries.
People in their motorcycles. So she walks up to the door, and it's like a big, heavy door. And she like, with both hands hauls it open, and inside, in a classic like old timey town hall vibe of like rows of benches or little folding chairs are all set up, and there are all these people in there. They're all dressed mostly in like blacks, charcoal gray, those kinds of colors. Very reminiscent of how Spec dresses. But instead of heads, they all have sunflowers instead of human heads. And there's it's kind of like the right before a meeting starts where everyone's talking to each other. And so there's kind of just like chatter, and she like young Faye just like beckons for y'all to come, and she's like, well, hurry up. And then she like hops in through the door.
I go in.
I skip right in.
Yeah, I think I'm already in there, and so my like my appearance, which is very similar to my transcended form, but not exactly the same. I'm also wearing one of these suits, but I have my like mirror mask that I have found a sunflower and put it on top, but it's still very clearly I'm not one of them. And I think that these two know me as a sometimes ally in the dream world, so they recognize that I'm here and someone they know, but maybe they aren't certain if I'm actually with these people or not.
Yeah, you like stick out a little bit to them because they can tell, but I don't think any of the other like sunflower people would know the difference. Like they look at you, they talk to you as if you're one of them, for now at least. And so the door like closes kind of a little too loudly behind y'all, and like a few people in the back row, their heads all like pivot in unison, and they just look at you with these
Sunflowers just staring at
blank sunflower faces, and like a seed shakes loose from one of them. But Faye like interjects herself between y'all and just says, I'm gonna get them to fill out the forms, don't worry, and then like motions for y'all to come with her to like a little like side room where I think there's like the table with the coffee and the donuts and boxes, that whole thing. There's like a space where that's happening. And as y'all are walking in there, this very smartly dressed, imposing woman is like stepping onto stage and like tapping a microphone to get the meeting started.
How do we know she's opposing if she's a sunflower face? Is it just the aura that she gives off? Or...
This particular person
buff.
does not have a sunflower face.
Oh, okay. Well, she's an important character then if she doesn't.
I don't know. The person on stage, she has like a very stern, matronly vibe. She's not smiling. Her hair is very like tightly pulled back in a bun. Her clothing is very like angular and severe, more suited to the town, so it's a little bit old-fashioned, I think, to y'all's eyes. And so she has
the
like
lunch lady from Matilda.
Yeah.
Maybe,
but in a suit.
She has like a long pleated skirt on that goes down to her ankles, but then like a button-up blouse or whatever that's in charcoal gray.
Yeah.
And she's like tapping the microphone and just saying like, all right, everyone, it's time to get started. And like, this week we're going to be talking about, gosh, what is the topic for this week's meeting? Suitably weird. How do we do this?
Suitably weird.
Yeah, and so she's like, this week we're going to talk about how to make a Mobius river.
What?
And then there's like
Mobius river.
an overhead projector next to her that she snaps on and then gets out like a transparency and puts it on the thing, and like the lights dim.
Is it the ones where it's like a light and you like lay down the transparent
Yeah,
paper?
yeah, exactly. I don't know if
nice.
this is like too old school for y'all,
No,
I
but
love it.
when I was a kid in elementary school, the teachers still
I
had
was
these
thinking
things.
like the projectors from the 1970s where they have like little like slides and like they click the button and it, like,
I was thinking a slide projector would be good too, because then she could keep saying "next slide, please," and some other person had to go.
I like that.
Actually,
yeah.
let's go with that, and because then slide projectors have the hum too, and so all through these scenes, there's this hum of the slide projector going, and the like ka-check, ka-check. Yeah, that's great. And so y'all are in this little side room. Spec, you're like in the rows with the other flower people watching the presentation. So let's maybe linger here for a bit. Saul and Laurel, y'all are getting ushered off to get a cookie and fill out a form, apparently. But yeah, so this woman on stage is talking about, and it's kind of like a fairly formal lecture about how to construct a infinitely looping river inside of your dream. And so she's like explaining, it's like weird high concept metaphorical language around like how to conceptualize this thing and how to like break laws of physics and assemble it in your dream. Uses a lot of language that you're probably familiar with, Spec, from your days in the collective. You've definitely heard Plena and Rip and some of those other folks like talk about this kind of thing, because they would practice how to like improve their ability to dream things up. And so this lady is delivering a lecture on how to do that.
Can I gather information? Is that a thing that I can do at this point in time?
Yeah, totally. Like, I think listening to her, like actually paying attention to her lecture could be a way, or like watching the crowd, and whatever you want to ask me questions about, you're more than welcome to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm more observing the crowd than listening to her, but I think I am also listening to her. Do I need to roll for this? Okay.
Yeah. For this, we'll say it's a controlled position with standard effect.
And am I just rolling one die, or am I rolling a attribute?
Yeah, definitely pick an action that you want to roll.
So this is probably analyze.
Yeah, I think if you're doing something like just watching, like perceive, analyze, that kind of thing, then definitely controlled standard works. Sorry, I kind of jumped ahead there.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so you get a 6.
Nice.
Yeah, so feel free to ask me a couple questions, and I will give you good detail. I will withhold little or
Who
nothing.
here is keeping secrets?
Okay, well, so everyone in the crowd is, right? They're concealing their identities. But also the woman on stage talking, it's kind of a disguise. I think for Spec, it's something you're very familiar with. This is a version of herself that she has constructed. It is a very, very particular version of herself that she has constructed. Also, little kid Faye is keeping secrets.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, you get 2 questions, and you can ask me a follow-up afterwards.
Great. Well. What does Faye really want?
Oh, like little kid Faye? What does little kid Faye want?
I mean, I'm assuming that little kid Faye is Faye, but I'm talking about actual Faye in case they're not the same person.
Great. Okay, no, that's a good one. So I think what Faye wants is confusing, right? It's like it's complicated because you're in her dream and you haven't lost sight of that fact, right? Like, this is Faye's dream. Faye has made this place and has invited these people in here, or they are like very elaborate creations of her mind, or some mix of the two. But then there's this little kid version of her who was excluded from the meeting, and so it doesn't add up. There's definitely something weird going on. And then you like look up on stage again at this woman, and I think maybe like you remember being shown photos or something, and like it's not. This woman doesn't look like Faye would at her age, but looks like what famous people at that time looked like. She's like the aspirational version of what a proper woman was supposed to be like for that era. And it kind of twigs for you that maybe that's also Faye up there on stage. And so she kind of seems to want both to like be the mom or to be the authority, but then also to enjoy the fruits of that experience. And so she like Faye can't decide what she wants. She's like kind of split in these two notions in her dream.
As a follow-up to that, what is the danger for Faye?
I think there's like each aspect has its own danger that it invites, right? Like little kid Faye risks all of these sunflower people just kind of using her mind as a meeting hall, like very literally. Like she risks kind of being made to be subservient to these other people and what they're doing. But then if she's leading the meeting, and if that's really her deal, then like she is involved, and the danger to Faye is y'all. Because then she's kind of in your path if that's the line that ends up being the real Faye, or whatever we want to think of that as. Whichever part of that kind of inner conflict with her wins out presents these two different problems.
Damn.
And so we cut to little kid Faye handing each of you a cookie that's like folded very nicely inside of those little square napkins, and it's like perfectly folded so that you can see the cookie like it's a little sunrise over a little mountain. Boom, like hands you a cookie. And she just said, "I helped make these," and like hands you this very nice little chocolate chip cookie to each of you. And then like offers y'all drinks, and she's like, there's juice and there's coffee. And she's being like very, very accommodating.
Oh, thank you. And I'm gonna take a bite of it. Does it taste familiar at all?
Oh God, it is your grandma's like for you it's this deeply nostalgic taste of like the cookie that you would have as a kid, or like the treat.
Yes. Just had to verify. So.
Well, so actually, I mean, it's definitely grandma's cookies, but like, have you always lived with your grandma? Do we want to get into any kind of stuff to do with your parents at all? Is that a thing? Were they ever in the picture?
I think it was off and on a lot, and then like as she got to about be like 9 or 10, that's when she moved in full time.
Okay, yeah, so you would like often be at your grandma's. And so yeah, this cookie I think then has a very long, complicated history of being like an escape at first, and then finally like a safe home. So it's like
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, this is a very symbolic cookie for Laurel, and so it's glorious. It's great.
I think Laurel's just quiet for a minute as she's just like slowly eating this cookie, just taking it in.
And seeing that you're kind of distracted, Kid Faye turns to Saul and just says, and then I need you to fill out the forms.
That was going to be my question. Absolutely, little miss. I will fill out the form. Where is it?
She said, they're right here, and there's like pens, and there's like a couple stations set up with like the form, a pen, and then like a pamphlet next to it that tells you like what's going on.
Okay. I'll go to one of these little podium stations and flip through it.
Yeah, and so the pamphlet includes stuff that is familiar to us from like Rip's art installation zine printout kind of thing. It's like more manifesto inclined version of that. So it's like a little booklet that has been done up zine style where it's folded in 4 and, you know, cut pages. So there's a little booklet like that that's about radical dreaming to achieve self-actualization.
Oh, Lord.
And unshackle your mind from society and its bullshit is like what this is about.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is big time, that kind of stuff.
Sold as a little like like a little guffaw.
And then the form is like, it's a bunch of personal information, but it's not like government personal information. It's about like the things you like, what you think smells good, things that you hope for, what the best feeling you've ever had was, what the worst feeling you've ever had was. It's like these very sensory and emotional kind of questions or like personal facts about you that the pamphlet,
This is a
or
deep
the form
personality test. Okay, so I immediately start filling out the form, and my very first fill out, I want to lie and see if it has any effect. And I write down that one of my favorite foods is a kale salad.
Love kale. Cool. So I think, fucking with the intake form is definitely not a trivial thing here. This is definitely a highly dangerous activity in this stream. So would you like to roll some dice?
Oh man.
I'm like, let's test the reality here. Yeah. What should I roll? Should it be a just like a perceive, or is it like a defy?
This could definitely be you defying. If you're not trying to get away with it, then you're definitely, I think defy would be really appropriate to just be like, no, fuck you, form and this whole dream, like, you're bullshit. If you're trying to like sneak it in there, you could roll conceal and just be like, yes, this is totally what I believe.
Nah, it's definitely a defy then.
Yeah, you're like deliberately sabotaging this thing.
It's the average. So 3.
A 3 is not a 4, a 5, nor a 6, unfortunately, in this case.
Yep.
So
Yep.
So you start writing wrong information in the form.
One too many lies.
And I don't think Laurel feels this, but like as you're doing this, like there's like a tremor. And the wind picks up, like one of the windows which was open, there's like a shutter that starts slamming against it. There's like a heavy disturbance around you. And everyone in the meeting hall, like you like glance out of the corner of your eye, you see movement, and every single one of the sunflowers is just pointed at you. And like the lecture has stopped. Everything has stopped.
She's just eating her cookie and just staring on the space, just like
yeah, and you're still in like this nostalgic moment. But yeah, like suddenly everyone is aware of you and is looking at you. And you're welcome to resist and have it not go that way, but
that's perfect.
It's basically
Fine.
Like everything short of an actual literal spotlight being lit and shining on you. Like everyone is suddenly paying attention to you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, in the next action, you'll just slowly see Soul like flip the page, crumple it, pick up another form. Okay.
And so like
Maybe
a couple of the sunflower people like come over, and
oh no.
the meeting like resumes, like the lecture continues. I think there's like an exchange of a like glance and a nod from the lady on stage with these two people. They come over to you, and they're not like holding sticks and about to like run you out of town or anything, but they kind of have this very earnest expression, and like one of them has their hands clasped in front of their chest, and they just say, so it's just really important that you make a ruthless moral inventory when you're filling this out, and that you respect and honor the process. And the other one is like nodding. This is like Sunflower Head just nodding. Um, so it's okay that you did this, and they like take your like ruined document and they like crumple it in their hands and like look at it, and you can tell from some like bristling of the sunflower petals that they're like really squicked out by this thing. They're like, yeah. And they like crush it in their hand and grind it, and like ash falls out of their hand. But we will need you to just really focus and do this again. Hen and I will watch to make sure that this is going correctly for you. And if you have any trouble at all, and then Hen, the other one, speaks up, we'll help you if you have any trouble.
May I attempt to intervene?
Ooh.
Yeah. Do you want to try to get Soul out of this situation?
Yeah, because I think, at this point, the sunflower people think that I'm one of them. And I would like to walk up and try to convince them that Soul is a friend of mine that I have invited to this place, and they are simply very creative and have misplaced their creative energies in this moment, and I will help them finish filling out the form.
Yeah, so you like walk over and say all of that, and there's like a brief like back and forth, I think, where Han is like, well, but a creative act is born of an artist needs to have a process, don't you think? Like, really, they should know better. And like everyone's just really upset and scandalized that someone would write a lie in the form. But go ahead and roll, and we'll see if you're able to kind of talk these two down and shift things. Is your goal to like get these two to go away and have you be responsible for Soul, essentially?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm thinking that this is express.
Sure.
That I'm lying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get them to believe my lie.
I think...
So maybe it's conceal.
Either one can work, I think. But yeah, conceal is good if you're lying as well. It's whichever you choose to roll is fine.
Great. I will do conceal.
Conceal? Okay, so I think if you're...
Position.
For conceal... I just failed to roll. I think... Though things seem very low stakes, I think this is very not low stakes at all. I think this is a desperate action at this point.
This is desperate.
Because if they don't buy the lie, then suddenly you're going to get lumped in with Soul's indiscretions, and maybe you'll have to fill out the form as well, and there will be a whole thing, and reality itself might break down. And so we'll say it is desperate and standard. Okay. I
was gonna save myself, and we're just digging our hole here.
Oh, and I'm just like off in the background, just eating a cookie.
I wish I were eating a cookie.
Meanwhile, the unlikely hero. Delicious.
Oh, it's got breezy in here. Oh.
And so, yeah, you come over and you do this back and forth with them, and then, gosh, I think just behind you, this like matronly figure is standing there suddenly, and she just says,
"Oh fuck!"
But did you fill out the form, stranger? And she like taps you on the shoulder once with this like very brusque, like bony finger. Behind her in the meeting room, like the lights are out. It's just a dark space behind her now. And she just says, "This is all very disruptive to my lecture. A lot of people came here to see this. It's very important. And the three of you," and she like looks at each of you, like makes eye contact, boom, boom, boom.
Is it Laurel finally like, what?
Yeah, like you're kind of brought back to reality by this.
Reality.
The three of you are all being very disruptive. I will need you to leave.
May I resist this?
Yes, totally.
I'm just
So
eating a cookie.
part of this resistance is flashback that when I was in Plena's dream, I took one of the sunflowers that was in their vase in their dream, which is the sunflower I have on my face, and I'm going to resist this by invoking Plena's name and being like, I'm a close personal friend of Plena's, and I don't think that I need to do this. So.
Cool. Yeah. So if you want to resist this bad thing of you all being kicked out, then yeah, I think you can do that with stars. This is very much like a social pressure kind of thing, I think.
Great. Stars. I assume this is still desperate.
Well, so for a resist roll, you don't need to worry about the position or effect.
Okay.
It might ask you for it, but it's just, again, because the roll macro is very simple. Okay, so you take 2 stress.
Oh boy.
And she just says, "Oh, you're Plana's friend," and she like reaches over, like without looking, to the table and pulls out a form that is filled out already, with your name on it. And she says, she like squints at it and says, "Sorry, what was your character's thing? Oh yeah, Rasa." Like she's like, "Rasa, was it? Yes, yeah. No, we have you here." And she like taps the form and puts it down. And clearly, you can help your friend navigate the process, but she narrows her eyes. I expect you to understand the importance of it, though, as well.
Of course. Who better to understand than a close personal friend of Plena's?
Yeah, and like maybe this rankles her a little bit that you are invoking Plena. And she said, "Well, yes, of course. We are very grateful and appreciative of our benefactor, Plena, but she would want us all to," and she like, without saying anything, just like raises her eyebrows and motions towards the table with the paperwork. It just like, indicates it. "So, out of respect for her, I ask that you please help your friend." She like waves the 2 sunflower people, Hin and their friend, to go back into the room. And the room like exists again behind her. There was this brief moment where like everything went black and the room kind of shrank with just the 4 of you in it. But now like there's noise again and everything kind of snaps back to being chill, at least for a little bit.
Well, boy, howdy. That was...
Yeah, and she like strides back into the room. There's like the very loud clack of her high heels that like echoes impossibly loud in the space as she like walks back up to the stage. And then the slide projector is back on. We hear the clack, ka-chack as it switches slides. And then there's like a little whimper from under the table with the forms with little kid Faye, who's like, clearing a tear from one of her eyes. And she like
I immediately
wiggles back out. Yeah.
I immediately bow down to little Faye and I'm like, I am so sorry. There's nothing to be afraid of. I will not write anything silly again.
There's one thing to be afraid of, and it's her. And she kind of like, like screws her face in a bit of a frown to like impress upon you how serious that is. She says, if you do a bad thing, then I get in trouble too. I don't want her being mad at me. It's not good. And she like comes out from under the table and like dusts her knees off.
What did I miss?
I was filling out the form and I got myself confused with myself and may not have written the right answers.
Your friend tried to lie, is what happened. And these people are very sensitive to issues of truth and beauty and freedom, things like this. So please take it seriously if you're gonna try to be here.
And
this is real.
Little kid Faye has like subtly migrated over to be standing next to Rasa, and like you feel a little hand go and like try to be held by your hand. And she like looks up at you and is like, "Do you really know Plana Luce?"
And I accept the hand, and I'm like, yes, Plana and I have known each other for a very long time.
And she's just like, "Wow." And like is fixing with like these big eyes.
Do I need to fill out the form?
Yeah, and like little kid Faye like turns and she's like, "Yes, everyone has to fill out the form, or she gets mad. You can't be in here if you haven't filled it out. Everyone else did," and she like indicates the whole crowd.
I think now is the point is like I'm grabbing like Laurel's grabbing the form and starting to like fill it out. She remembers when she got lost, and then she's like, "Oh no." And she says "oh no" like out loud enough for those two to hear it.
Because yeah, a lot of things are very familiar, especially like now that the sun's gone down, the like quality of the light outside is very much the same as it was in that field.
Mm-hmm. I think Laurel like put like half her name down and stopped for a second and just like looked. Is that the form? And then looked at Soul because she doesn't know who Rasa is. Just some person that they see from time to time.
Yeah, just a mysterious dream traveling stranger who is definitely not Spec that you know.
Yeah. And she's gonna like move over to Soul and just sort of like lean over and whisper and be like, "Oh, this isn't good."
The form or the dream?
Yes.
I mean, I figured as much when I tried to bullshit an answer over here, but you know.
I met a unicorn, and
word.
And Kid Faye is just like, "You met her too? I never get to meet her." And she's like, crosses her arms. Just like, so cool.
I was trying to be quiet, dang it. And I'm gonna take the pen and just like write on my hand because I can't talk out loud apparently because it's no matter how quiet I whisper. And I'm gonna say, basically just write my hands. Field of flowers aren't as sweet as we think they'd be. And just sort of like show my palm like to Soul.
Uh-huh. Ah. Interesting. Well, why don't we fill out these forms?
And that's when Laurel just puts down the paperwork and starts heading out.
Yeah, do you just like walk back outside?
Yeah, pretty much.
Do they let you?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't think there's a door.
Oh no!
Anymore. I don't think a door exists. You like go to leave, and there's just a wall there.
Shit. Are there windows?
They're very high up, and they're like elementary school windows with like the metal grating, on them, so you can't get out.
You see her walk to where the door was, stare at the wall, sigh. Go back into the room, look at the window, sigh again.
Yeah, this place has taken on a much more like prison-like atmosphere in the course of the past like few minutes.
She's just doing like the Johnny Travolta thing, like looking around and just sort of.
And in the other room in the lecture hall now, floating above the attending audience, is a like Mobius strip of water that's just like flowing in a loop, and the matron is like talking highfalutin philosophical concepts about it.
Yeah, I look at that. I'm like, why the heck does she want infinite water going nowhere? What good does that do?
And then this seems to like conclude the lecture, and a bunch of people in the audience, like, you know, there's like scattered applause. Other people are like standing up and getting ready to leave. And she's like walking back over to this room.
Oh no!
Quick! Look like you're busy. Go fill out the paper. Come on, Laurel.
I pick up the paper again. I just slowly start adding letters, just like really
The
slowly.
truth. The truth.
It
Yeah,
is
you're
the
writing as
truth.
slow as possible so you don't have to write anything that you don't want to
pretty
yet.
much.
Yeah.
I'm looking like I'm busy.
Yeah, and so she strides over, and to Raza, she'll just say, well, I'm sure you're familiar with all of this, but your friends missed out. They took too long. Are they done yet?
Oh, there's always next week, right?
Yeah, and I think I'm just like, I think they missed out on this one, but I'm going to bring them along next time, and I'm going to prepare them for the paperwork so that they know what to expect and what is acceptable and not acceptable.
Yeah, and she doesn't seem satisfied with that answer. Like, you say that, and then she lets it hang in the air for a moment and just says, but that's simply not done. Next time. They shouldn't even be here if they haven't filled it out. Are they even supposed to be here?
My printer ran out of ink, so I couldn't print out the forms for them beforehand. It's the only problem. So won't be a problem next time, promise.
Yeah, I mean, she's not having any of this. For sure. So you're like, yeah, my printer ran out of ink or whatever. She's just like, no. I shouldn't have even let you. And she like looks down at Kid Faye and just says
no,
like,
no. It wasn't.
Shouldn't have let
their
them
fault.
inside. Should have known better. So foolish. And she just kind of like scoffs and dismissively at the kid.
No. Whoa. Your instructions to this young child was to bring anyone in for the meeting. And of course, we rolled in. So clearly, wouldn't we be here for the meeting?
She never did have a good sense for people, who to trust, who to count on.
Ma'am, I think my friend Saul here has a point, and we would like to speak with your manager about the service that you're providing.
I am the manager.
I think as the older lady's like saying these bad things about younger Faye, the pen starts getting like. I think Laurel stopped writing at this point, and like she's holding on to the pen, and like it's like she's like about ready to snap it.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky then that it hasn't left yet. I will come follow me. And she like turns to pivot. The room behind her that was the lecture theater is now like a long hallway that y'all are standing in. Like, Laurel, you're still holding a piece of paper, but the table is gone. It's just like, wait, what the fuck? And then, yeah, she's like walking down the hallway to like a few steps to a door, and she indicates it. And on the glass of this like wooden door with a window in it that's a fogged window, it just says RIP.
That's right.
Fuck.
I suppose you can take it up with it, but it won't be any kinder than I am. And then she opens the door and indicates for you to enter.
Great. This is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah? Okay.
But I thought we were looking for an Okay.
Is Sol and Laurel aware of Specs or Rasa's experience with RIP? We get probably not. Yeah,
No.
just double
No.
checking. I'm like, I don't think
don't
I
think
have
so.
any direct engagement with Rip. So I'm like, cool. Who's this ominous Rip?
I might like kind of whisper as an aside to you as we kind of go in, and I'm like, this chucklehead. So you know that I do not take this person seriously.
And Sol, you recognize Rip from when you were looking into the fountain. There was some
Oh,
stuff
right.
to do with them. So
Interesting.
yeah, you at least know a little bit, but I don't think you've ever met Rip.
I love that Rip is all caps, and we always have to say it like that.
Yep.
Rip.
Rip.
And so yeah, there's like this serious looking office that y'all get ushered into, unless anyone doesn't want to go in really badly, in which case we can figure that out. But I think like this matron just like sweeps you all in there, and then like steps inside, closes the door behind her, and in
Rip
the
knows
room,
who I am.
yeah, and so there's no like furniture or anything in the room. It's just an empty space, with a like floor to ceiling window on the back wall that looks out onto a massive field of sunflowers with like maybe a road kind of heading through it. You can see like, yeah, I think because we see like street or overhead lights along the road that illuminate the sunflowers. All the sunflowers are pointed at the window, and the three of you are standing there with the matron behind you, and in front of you is Rip. And what does Rip look like? I hadn't thought this far ahead, but they're weird post-humanist. I think Rip is just like
I feel like I'm like, if a robot were crust punk, that's what Rip would be like.
yeah, sort of. I think they're like a mechanical flower bush with instead of big flowers on it, it has like screens that have faces on them, or like displays of faces that are assembled out of photos, and that it animates them to speak out of like collections of different stills that are like assembled and reassembled as it tries to make them speak. It's all very uncanny and weird. And so you come in and it just says, "Oh, what now? Busy. Working." And like some little like tendril comes out and like sweeps a bunch of paper into the corner. And then it sees Raza and just says, "Oh, it's you.
Rip.
Thought you were done with us. Who are your stupid friends?"
These were simply interested parties that I brought this evening. We had a little bit of trouble with the paperwork, and your door person here gave us a hard time. So just wanted to let you know that you might want to see to your employees and show people a better time when they come to your events.
Look, Raza, we're not a business here, okay? It's not like that, all right? We're all
Well,
just...
clearly not.
Anyways, you're not supposed to be back here. You're not supposed to be bringing people. You're not welcome here.
Okay, then we'll leave.
And then, like, all of the faces on the screens all turn to, like, big frowns. And it just says, no. Leaving is not enough. You still owe me. Back when you turned your back on us, screwed everyone over, took Luce away from us.
I didn't take Luce away. You took Luce away.
Whatever.
You see Soul slowly shrinking into a corner.
I think Laurel's like hiding behind Soul.
So I think normally this would just be another argument, but here in this particular place, when Rip says these things, you start catching yourself, Rasa, feeling like they're true. and it's like this very invasive, like foreign feeling, like when you're having anxiety or depression or whatever, and there's like a really negative voice in your head. It's like one of those pops up, but it's Rip's voice just being like, yeah, Rip's right. You did drive Luce away. You ruined everything. You used to be part of something. Now you're alone. There's like this whole huge wave of like negative ideation and stuff that just kind of like starts overwhelming you.
Yeah.
Unless you want to like do something about it. I don't know. I mean, you can just let it happen. Or...
I mean, I think that my response to that is like, I owe you, but I like, what could I possibly? There's nothing I could do.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's nothing I could do to fix everything I fucked up. So why don't you just forget about me? We'll call it even.
And Rip says, it's not enough to forget. I need to know that this haunts you, that you will never forget about it, that it will follow you everywhere, that when you sleep, you will see this thing that you have done, and that you will be stuck in it. And when you're awake, you'll be thinking about it. And that they won't ever be around again because of you. And so, yeah, I'm just going to need you to roll to resist this, like, horrible, haunting sadness that Rip is just, like, unloading on you. Because it's like, this is everything that Rip feels about this. And it's just dumping it into you. And being like, cool, I feel terrible. You take this and keep it. I don't want it anymore. So this is just straight up level 3 harm of an emotional variety. It's just like a deep sadness.
So stars to resist?
Yeah, I think so.
And position doesn't matter for this kind of
No,
role?
not for this kind of role. So you take 5 stress.
Take 5 stress?
Do you even have 5 to take?
Oh, absolutely not. I definitely eclipse.
Okay.
Oh no!
So, first step on your sheet, write down just level 1 harm. I don't know how to articulate it best.
Depression?
Yeah, pretty much. And that it's about Luce. It's about Planet Luce. Specifically. It's like all of Rip's sadness around that you're carrying still. You don't slip all of it. And then if that does put you to your stress maximum,
oh yeah.
Cool. We get to do the eclipse thing. So let me just double check because it's been a while since this has come up for me. So when you reach or exceed your stress limit, roll for eclipse using your lowest attribute. So whichever of sun, moon, or stars is the lowest, you're going to roll that.
They're all the same.
So then whichever one you like. Cool. So on a 4 or 5, another member of the team can push themselves to keep you from succumbing to your inner darkness. If they do not, then we treat it as a fail, and you fall into eclipse. So if someone else wants to be like, shaking you out of it or trying to help you.
I think Laurel will, because after hearing all this, she's like, wait, that isn't nice. Why are you saying these things? How dare you say that about them? Like, it's sort of just like standing in the way and just trying to like be not only an emotional shield, but also a physical shield between the two of them.
Yeah, because I think like for everyone else, you see like the screens all like looming in and leaning, and Rasa just like kind of like shrinking under them as Rip like says all this stuff and just like berates and wears them down. So yeah, you can either take 2 stress, or if you have a link with spec, you could spend that instead.
I do have a link.
So that would be good. Yeah, so like you coming to their defense, I think, is a great way to spend that connection. And so yeah, you like intervene, and Rip like recoils a little bit at you, like shouting them down. And the screens all like look sad or dejected, like they're all faces that are like turned away slightly and aren't making eye contact. And Rip just says like, I don't want to have to carry this anymore. It's too much to bear. And then like,
You shouldn't shove it on other people then. That's so rude. Rasa doesn't deserve that. And you know what? You need to figure out your own issues before any of this happens.
and I think they just like shout back at you like, well, where else can it go? And they like scrape the ground. There's this horrible like metal on stone sound.
Yeah.
The space like opens up, is suddenly like really big and lonely feeling. And there is both the sound of Rip crying and they're shouting like simultaneously that all this is happening. But you're like, please feel free to roll something at me here. It sounds like you are.
Alright, so I spent my... Hold on, real quick. I spent my link. How do I get rid of this link?
Maybe you have to click on the outside, like on the left side of the little row to clear
I
it.
put 0.
Or there we go, yeah.
So, just so I know how that works for me mechanically, does that decrease the amount of stress that I took by 2?
Nope. So you just sit at 9 stress. The next
At
time you
9,
take stress,
okay.
you'll have to roll for Eclipse again. You can kind of hang out there for a bit
Okay, cool.
before you fall and push your luck.
I didn't take 2 stress. I just got rid of that link.
Yeah, you just spent the link instead of taking
Okay.
the stress. And then, yeah, it kind of sounds like you're like standing up to Rip in some way
am.
here. So what do you think that is that you're rolling?
Defy? No.
It could be Defy,
Express?
or it could be Express. Yeah, if you're trying to be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing it that way. You should be doing this other thing, which maps to what you said, right? Where you're like,
Yeah.
you can't just put that on other people.
Express. Position.
It's definitely Desperate Limited. Rip is a weird magical dream thing, and you're not, super powered.
And no bonus dice.
I don't think so, unless you have any of your abilities that you think apply here. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay, and then like Soul or Raza could help you also, would be one way you could get an extra die
Rosa
here.
can't help. That would cause them stress, right?
It would, yes.
I definitely would want to stick up. I may not know Raza, but like this is just pushing the boundaries of interaction too hard for Soul's little heart. And I'd be like, yeah, you're just an angry person pushing everyone away, so you can't complain about people not working over here anymore.
Yeah, so like the two of you physically interject yourselves between Rip and Raza and say all this stuff. So yeah, if you're helping, then mark 1 stress for Saul, and then Laurel gets an extra die.
Okay.
But yeah, it's Desperate Limited. You're standing up to a big, scary, magical thing.
Hey!
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it gives Rip pause. And it, like, a bunch of the screens, like, turn to face each other, and there's kind of, like, this inner monologue that happens out loud, where it's just like, well, then who... It's like, you keep doing this, you keep pushing everyone away, and then there's no one there to help you. Well, like, people aren't helpful in the first place. There's, like, this whole back and forth. And the heads are, like, snapping at each other a little bit and, like, bumping into each other.
Oh, like snakes, like Medusa snakes almost?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's some weird way in which Rip's inner turmoil is expressed very openly and outwardly. And so there's this, like, pause where Rip isn't paying attention to you. What do y'all want to do? Do you want to, like, run away? Do some other thing? What's the plan here?
Let's dip.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless Ross is feeling like doing something else, I feel like dipping is the best.
Yeah.
We're like,
I
yeah,
don't
we
know
want
what's
to talk to the
happening.
manager. Wait, the manager is scary. We want to run away now.
But now we know who the manager is, which is
Yeah,
really
clutch.
key. I do want to note that we have a little less than 15 minutes left, so.
Yeah, maybe we could also just, like, cliffhang here for next time before we get into anything.
I like
I
Any
don't know
next
how long
steps?
it'll take to run away, so.
that. I thought we were
And
just
where
like,
do we
"Ooh."
run away? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, running away is one thing, but then it's like, where do you run to? And it'll be a good segue into the next thing for next time, maybe. So why don't we just pause here, since
Okay.
it feels like a decent natural spot.
It's just like we turn and just start running.
Oh my
And that's where
goodness.
it cuts.
It's the episode end where they're like, you'll just have to tune in next time to find out
To
what
be
happens.
continued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is
Um,
Rasa? Where was Spec this whole time? What is Rip?
What is RIP? It's a good question.
Does it come with the Sailor Moon PSAs at the end? Like that little minute PSA that happens each episode?
God, imagine if that was in the rules. You have to decide what Sailor Moon says at the end of the session.
Sailor Moon says.
But
That's so
this means that we have time to do XP for everyone,
Oh yeah.
which would be a good move, I think.
Where you have XP stuff.
And so everyone on their sheet will have a list of XP prompts. And there's one for the crew as well. So let's do that one first. I gave y'all a couple XP for last session just because we didn't end up doing that. But
Crew XP.
little bump on crew XP to start things out. And so it says at the end of session for each item below, mark 1 XP or 2 XP if it happened multiple times. And the list is successfully carried out a mission from the crew's list, which we haven't finished yet, so we can't say yes to that. Delve into the conspiracy's maze and give solace to dreamers.
We delved into the maze.
I think we're definitely tangling with them. Did we give solace to anyone?
No,
We
no.
tried.
Cause more chaos than we gave solace.
And then explore the inner world of suspects and face their demons.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Faye.
And then I think also through the investigation, we kind of ended up looking at a bunch of the other characters as well. So I'd be inclined to mark 2 there. And lastly, express the essential origin, nature, or destiny of the crew. And so, did we see any kind of iconic stuff for, the relationships that exist between y'all or the things that y'all are kind of about?
Does this include downtime or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whatever we did during the session counts towards this. So.
I don't know how far, because I feel like me reflecting on Spec and kind of getting that flashback was a bit, but I don't know how far.
Yeah, I think that's enough, right? That we were exploring that topic and we got to learn some new things as we think of ourselves as an audience. We definitely saw new stuff. So, boom.
I mean, you learned a little bit more about Laurel's backstory and how she came into Faye's care.
Yeah, and even though it didn't come up super directly, we heard about what are Laurel's boundaries around whose dreams she is willing to go into and when, and all these kind of details around how the 3 of you operate. We kind of got to learn today. So,
Spec, I don't care. Laurel, no. Saul's hold on, let me see everybody's lifetimes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that relationship with consent around this topic is really interesting to see where the characters sit within that spectrum.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so that's crew XP. And
Nice.
then each of you individually will have that as well. I can bring that up, or if y'all have it handy for yourself, y'all can go down the list. I am not the ultimate judge of XP and its distribution. It's up to y'all for your sheets. So.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I have a question. So we add XP in the stat anytime we roll a desperate action.
Yeah. So, Morgan, your last roll as a desperate roll gives you 1 XP for Sun, and
Yeah.
Jory, you had a desperate roll in there too, right? For Conceal.
Yeah, mine was in stars.
Which is in stars. And then when you're marking XP at the end of session, you can choose to put it in one of the attributes if you want, or in your
Or in the playbook.
XP. So either one is fine when you're assigning at the end of session. Do you have yours handy, Jory? Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my questions are: I addressed a challenge with mystery or ostentatious action. I feel like asking to speak to the manager in a dangerous dream.
And you name dropped and did a bunch of.
That was bold.
Yeah. You like
True.
drew a lot of attention to yourself, which I think definitely counts for
Very
ostentatious.
much.
Right?
Am I taking 1 for that or 2 for that?
What do you think?
Well, it was
Did
kind
you
of
do
all,
it more than once?
I mean, name dropping plain and loose, asking to see the manager were like different instances, but they were addressing the same kind of general problem. So I don't know if that feels like 2 separate things or one thing.
Okay. I mean, it's ultimately up to you. So I'm not going to tell you one way or another. You just get to pick.
Do my other players have
I think you did it a lot, so
information?
You made some bold movements there.
And it doesn't have to just be during the mission as well. Like if you felt like you were being mysterious in downtime as well, then that can count into
Yeah,
this
I mean,
too,
I
so.
did sneak around and steal stuff. So great, I'll take 2 for that. I expressed my beliefs, drives, role, or background. My role is forbidden lover, so
I feel
that
like we
came
definitely hit
up
that note.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And also I would say my beliefs around what we were saying around consent, around
Yeah, totally.
dreams and how we
You're willing to just kind of go into
interact
someone's
there.
head and look at their dark secrets and inner pains or whatever. No problem.
Yeah. Struggled with issues from my promises or obligations. I don't think I did this session. I think I did last session with I had to tell Laurel my true feelings, but that didn't really come up this time.
Well, why don't you credit yourself for one from last session, because we didn't end up doing XP at the end of it. So
From last time.
yeah, feel free to have a freebie. Go for it. Knock yourself out.
Thanks. And then I embodied my eclipse or displayed the contents of your heart. I did not actually do that. Correct. Great. So that is 5 total for me.
Great. And I feel like just everyone across the board, just mark 1 for last session, just out the gate, because we missed this and
Roger.
should have done it. But then, yeah, Jess, do you want to go next?
Sure. Okay. You addressed a challenge with foresight or revelation. Would that count as like the dream fountain scene? I don't know if that's a challenge.
That definitely felt like foresight, right? You were like looking through time.
For sure. And let's see. You expressed your beliefs, drives, role, or background. I don't know, honestly.
We definitely did some talking in that downtime scene about like what it would mean to live as like a person kind of with a weird relationship to time. Like a bunch of the details you were talking about there really felt like that was digging into your character's background.
Sure.
Like,
okay. Okay. I'm starting to see. I'm picking up what we're putting down here. You struggled with issues from your promises or obligation. My promise with spec, I save you from yourself. Technically, yeah, that didn't really come into factor on a objective level. I don't know if because it's a forgotten promise with Laurel to find her happiness, and I'm like, I don't know if I remember that yet, technically.
And so that's one of those things where you have like the player level, character level split of like you, Jess, the player, know it, but the character doesn't.
Right.
So
that's something to work towards.
Yeah, we need to like be setting that up, you and I. I'll try to offer more for that.
No worries. And then lastly, you embodied your eclipse or displayed the contents of your heart.
I feel like you really displayed the contents of your heart when you stood up for baby Faye, because I feel like your character seems very stoic, and to have them be tender in that way was
to have a soft
revealing.
spot.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I would agree with that. I was just very flippant about the situation, and then once I realized the consequences affected Baby Faye, I was like, oh,
Wait,
damn.
no, this is not okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all she wrote.
Morgan?
All right. For me, you addressed a challenge with compassion or honesty.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you did that a lot. Like
Yeah.
you were
Agreed.
definitely playing into what your playbook is all about really, really well.
Okay,
100%.
Okay, so I guess that's 2.
Mm-hmm.
You expressed your beliefs, drives, role, or background. I mean, I don't really have a role yet, technically. I haven't really taken on my Oracle. I mean, I've seen some Oracle stuff, but I don't think I've taken it on yet, so.
Yeah, I see what you
I
mean
think
there.
that we saw a lot about your beliefs, though, in terms of how you interact with Faye and how you treat people's dreams.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the level of respect that you give to people and their like autonomy, which is so different from the other 2 characters who really are meddlers, right? Like they're very nosy and involved, whereas you're like, that's your thing, I'm going to respect that, I'm going to help you. Like when you helped your gran fix her internet security life, like that's nothing that you like needed to do. The game didn't demand that you help that NPC out in that way, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's just all about your character and what she feels is right.
I will take 1 for that then. You struggled with issues from your promises or obligations. I think her being coerced by the other 2, being like, hey, let's go to Nan's stream. She's like, no, why? I think that may fit.
Yeah, can you remind me which promise you think that maps to? Because I think I remember your promises, but I just want to double check that I'm sure, and it's nice to call it out.
Let's see here.
Because your one to Saul was about helping them find happiness, and that was like the impossible promise, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like specifically find your happiness or something. Like there was one word.
There was an angle to it. Yeah, that was perfect.
Soul was help them find happiness again, and then the impossible one was Spec, and help bring Plaza Luz back into the material plane. Oh no! Did I just break my promise then? No! When I spent that. Oh.
I don't think so.
You
right?
didn't play against it. You weren't like, yeah, cool unicorn. You should stay here. It's the best. Like stay in the dream. No, so that's fine. Yeah. Like.
I don't think I've got anything for that, so that's fine.
Okay, cool.
And you embody your eclipse or display the content of your heart. I didn't embody my eclipse.
But we definitely got to see the content of Laurel's heart.
Okay.
At least some of it.
I'll take one of those then. Alright,
Great.
so I've got 4 for this week.
Cool. Well,
do we need to fill up the meter before spending them or distributing them to other stats?
yeah,
or...
so each time you fill up the bar, that gets you an advance to spend on either an ability or a transcendent ability. And then if you fill up one of the ones for the attributes, that lets you add a dot to one of the actions within it.
But you can, so if you got 4, you could add 2 to your playbook advancement and 2 to one of your stats, right?
Yeah, you can split the end of session stuff any way you want.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
All right, well, that's it for this week. Thanks to everyone who's watching out there, and thanks to my lovely players. And we'll be back 2 weeks from now, if I'm remembering correctly, which is April 1st. And we don't do pranks, so it'll actually happen. Unless someone pranks me so hard that I can't do the show.
Oh, gosh.
Which hopefully will not be the case. Yeah.
We will avenge you.
All right, so we'll see y'all next time.